It's 4 a.m. on the 7th of December 2022. In the town of Bad Lobenstein in eastern Germany, a group of police officers are approaching a large Gothic building. This is the Jagdschloss Weidmannsau, a grand 200-year-old hunting lodge that has been owned by a succession of German and Prussian aristocrats. On this particular day, the police are not here for a friendly visit. They are heavily armed, wearing bulletproof vests and balaclavas. Officers break down the front door and enter the interior of the lodge. Inside, they make a shocking discovery: a massive stockpile of arms and ammunition, as well as boxes of satellite phones and explosives. The police have discovered the operational centre of a bizarre plot to storm the German parliament, overthrow the nation's leaders, and establish an authoritarian monarchist state ruled by a motley crew of aristocrats, astrologers, and ex-army men. This is the plot to take over Germany. The Weidmannsau is one of 137 locations raided on the 7th of December. Across Germany, 25 suspects were arrested in an operation involving more than 3,000 police officers and security officials. One of those apprehended is a 72-year-old man named Heinrich XIII Prinz Reuss. His unusual name is the product of a long and complicated family history. Heinrich is descended from the House of Reuss, an aristocratic family that ruled parts of Thuringia in eastern Germany for nearly 700 years. The Reuss family became private citizens following the abdication of the Kaiser in 1918. After the Second World War, their possessions, castles, townhouses, and art collections were expropriated by the East German government. It was at this low point in the family's history that Heinrich XIII was born in 1955. The Reuss family adhere to a unique patronymic naming system. All male descendants are given the name Heinrich plus an ordinal number. This increases chronologically until the end of the century, when it resets back to 1. Heinrich XIII Prinz Reuss is therefore the 13th Prince Reuss born in the 20th century. Heinrich worked as a real estate broker in Frankfurt. Following the reunification of Germany in 1990, he began to track down and purchase the family's lost properties. These included a hunting lodge in the town of Bad Lobenstein, Jagdschloss Weidmannsau. This became Heinrich's official residence, and it wasn't long before strange things began occurring in connection with the building. A large sign bearing the Reuss family's coat of arms was put up above the main entrance to the lodge. Later, leaflets were posted through townspeople's doors, asking strange questions about German citizenship. Do you have the feeling that something in this country isn't quite right? Did you know that you're not in possession of any citizenship, that you are stateless and possess no rights? They were signed by committed and honourable citizens of the federal states of the Principalities of Reuss. After this, neighbours began to notice large gatherings being held at the lodge. They were guarded by men with walkie-talkies posted outside the building, and attended by people with expensive cars from other parts of Germany. On the cars were stickers printed with the same strange acronym, BRD GmbH. This stands for Federal Republic of Germany Limited, the slogan of a fringe anti-state movement known as the Reichsbürger. The Reichsbürger believe that the modern German nation is illegitimate. This idea is rooted in the aftermath of the Second World War. Germany did not sign a peace treaty with the Allied powers, and the Reichsbürger believe the country is therefore still technically under a form of occupation, existing as an economic entity rather than a sovereign nation. On the basis of these beliefs, Reichsbürger will print their own identification documents, fly Germany's pre-1918 imperial flag, and refuse to pay taxes. Reichsbürger beliefs in Germany are the product of an increasingly polarised media landscape that can produce echo chambers and spread misinformation. To avoid these problems, it's important to look for non-biased news coverage and consider a wide range of sources. That's why I've partnered with Ground News for this video. They're a non-partisan app and website built to tackle these challenges by bringing together news from around the world, like right out of Germany, giving you access to every perspective all in one place. Swiping through headlines with context on how politically biased the sources, their credibility, and any financial incentives helps me see the bigger picture and form my own conclusions based on all the facts. Like this story about the Berlin police chief warning Jewish and LGBTQ+ communities of rising safety risks. Ground News found 75 articles covering this, with original perspectives adding more nuance than any one article could. Sources agree that Germany's refugee policies and integration challenges are central to political discourse, but Ground News goes further by identifying opposing viewpoints between public safety advocates and cultural integration defenders. I can even compare the headlines this breakdown is based on and view the biased distribution of these articles. One of my favourite features is how Ground News provides an ownership breakdown of any story, enabling you to understand the important and often hidden political and financial interests that underpin news coverage. Go to ground.news/looped or scan my QR code for 50% off the same Vantage plan I use to dig deeper on the important stories shaping our world. This brings the cost down to under $5 a month, making it their biggest discount of the year. Supporting Ground News not only supports my work, but ensures misinformation and bias don't decide what you believe. Now, back to the video. Prince Heinrich expressed his Reichsbürger ideology in a lecture given in Zurich in 2019. Ever since Germany surrendered on the 8th of May, Germany has never been sovereign again. It was made into an administrative structure of the Allies in the so-called United Economic Entity, Federal Republic of Germany. In other words, a commercial structure. Locals in Bad Lobenstein were largely confused by Heinrich's unusual views, but many attributed them to the eccentricities of an aging aristocrat. One neighbour told journalists, "It was conspiracy theory stuff, all kinds of strange things that didn't make any sense to me. It was kind of creepy." The truth, however, was far stranger and more dangerous than any of the townspeople could have imagined. Within the walls of the Weidmannssaal, plans were being made to overthrow the German government and seize power by a group calling themselves the Patriotic Union. This group consisted of a network of around 60 core members who shared Prince Heinrich's Reichsbürger beliefs. They communicated online in messaging groups and over phone calls, or met in various locations scattered around Germany. The Weidmannssaal in particular served as a key meeting point and base of operations. Alongside Prince Heinrich, members of the Patriotic Union included Birgit Malsack-Winkelmann, a judge in the Berlin District Court and a former politician for Germany's far-right AfD party. Maximilian Eder, a former colonel in the German army, who had served as the chief of staff for the KSK, Germany's elite special forces unit, and Rüdiger von Pescatore, another ex-KSK member who had been fired from the German army in 1996 for stealing weapons and munitions. Other parts of the membership contained stranger, esoteric elements. People like Hildegard Lieding, an astrologer, who used star signs to identify potential recruits for the organisation, and Melanie Ritter, a doctor who was known to practice a method of predicting the future through reading eggs known as oomancy. Despite these bizarre ideas, the Patriotic Union were, nonetheless, developing a very real plan of action to seize power. The group had allegedly planned to storm the German Federal Parliament building, the Bundestag, where they would arrest the German Chancellor along with attending members of Parliament. At the same time, groups stationed in key positions around Germany would carry out a coordinated attack on communications infrastructure, destroying telecom networks and radio towers. In the ensuing confusion, the group believed they would be able to emerge as the new, legitimate German government. Preparations had been made to enact these plans. Malsack-Winkelmann had access to the Bundestag as a former member of parliament. In August of 2021, she allegedly brought several co-conspirators on a tour of the building. They took photos of the Bundestag's layout, access points and exits in order to prepare for their attack. The group had also begun procuring equipment. They paid a criminal gang in Switzerland €140,000 for firearms and had bought a dozen Iridium satellite phones at €1,500 each. These would allow the group to communicate with one another after phone networks had been disrupted. Other items purchased included stun guns, night vision goggles and combat helmets. Prosecutors alleged that this accumulated armoury was a clear indication that the group intended to use violence, where necessary, to achieve its aims. In a recorded phone call, Prince Heinrich allegedly told his co-conspirators, "We're going to crush them, the fun is over." The plotters had also prepared for the organisation and structure of their post-coup government. Prince Heinrich would be installed as head of state, ruling as the new Emperor of Germany. Other planned appointments included Maximilian Eder, the ex-colonel, who would become the head of the new German army, while Birgit Malsack-Winkelmann was to be appointed justice minister. A lawyer, referred to in the press as Paul L., was set to be the foreign minister. Astrologer Hildegard Lieding would be assigned the unusual government position of Commissioner for Spirituality, and Melanie Ritter, the clairvoyant egg doctor, was tapped to be health minister. Ultimately, however, these plans would not come to fruition. Unbeknownst to members of the Patriotic Union, their movements were being closely followed. German police had received a tip-off regarding their activities in October 2021, leading to the initiation of a large-scale surveillance operation, codenamed Shadows. This involved monitoring the activities of 52 key suspects across Germany. Investigators recorded telephone conversations, tracked internet usage, and shadowed key members of the organisation. They observed, for instance, a meeting between Marzak Winkelmann and Heinrich XIII in a Berlin restaurant in 2022. These preparations culminated in the raids on the morning of December 7th. Authorities searched 137 sites across 11 of Germany's 16 states. Marzak Winkelmann was arrested at her home in Berlin, while Prince Heinrich was found at one of his properties in Frankfurt's West End neighbourhood. By 6:48 in the morning, all suspected conspirators had been arrested. Reactions in Germany to these events were varied. Some, like the Berliner Zeitung, disregarded the threat posed by what they described as 25 senile loons. Others, like the journalist Jörg Schmidt, were more concerned. It would be too easy to write these people off as crazy, as a weird bunch of conspiracy theorists, but that would be naive. Another commentator, Peter Neumann, added, "I don't believe for a second that this group would have succeeded in overthrowing the government. The important question is how much damage they could have caused in trying to do so." The trial of the suspected conspirators began in May 2024. Due to the scale and complexity of the case, it has been split into 3 separate trials, with each one focusing on a different part of the organisation. A trial in Stuttgart involves the so-called military arm of Patriotic Union, including individuals like Rüdiger von Pescatore. Another, in Munich, centres on those who allegedly provided financial support to the organisation. While the supposed leaders of the group, including Prince Heinrich, along with 8 other men and women, are being tried at a high-security courtroom in Frankfurt. The prince's defence lawyer, Roman von Alvensleben, maintains that the group are not terrorists, they're just slightly crazy, and that the prince denies he was ever violent, he denies he ever wanted to kill people or made any plans to do so. Federal prosecutors, on the other hand, allege that the group clearly planned to eliminate democracy in Germany by using violence and military means. As of December 2024, these trials are still ongoing.